I think you look fine. All right, so tonight's workshop topic is what kind of networker are you? And we are going to dive in. And by the end of this workshop, you would definitely know what kind of networker are you. And you would gain tips on how to move from being that kind of a networker to being a master networker. And so let's begin. Okay, before I get here, let me ask you, who do you think is a networker?
I would consider a networker to be one who tries to build where friendships with other individuals. Uh, I would say for the long run.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from looking at Googling online and trying to see what they have as what is a networker, according to them, it says a person who interacts or exchanges information with others working in a similar field, especially to further their career.
Mm-hmm.
But I say a networker is someone who interacts, exchanges information, supports and uplifts others, creating and building a mutually beneficial relationship for reasons of career advancement, building a stronger foundation, create a bigger impact, visibility and exposure, inspiration, new wisdom, or a trusted peer group, all avenues that can lead to a greater net worth. So to me, I think that the definition that I got from Google or from the dictionary was very limited because networking is so much more than just interacting and exchanging information because you want to further your career. Some people network, it's not just only for furthering their career. As you see in my definition, I explore so many different results that you can get to with networking. And it's not just about furthering your career only.
Mm-hmm.
So before you figure out what type of a networker are you, I think it's important to examine who you are. And that's why the question there is asking, who am I? Who are you? And are you a leader? Are you valuable? Are you focused? Are you a professional, a friend, a communicator, driven? Are you goal oriented? Are you motivated? We can be all of these things, but it's essential and important for you to figure out who you are because no one else is going to know who you are before you yourself first know who you are. How am I supposed to interact with you or gain some value from you or build a relationship with you if you as a person don't recognize and do not know who you are? So it's important to figure that out before you start connecting and building relationships with people. You must really analyze yourself and figure out who you are as a person, who you are as a professional. What does your brand say about you? And brand and networking, I think, coincides with each other. And with your networking, you have to establish a brand and people have to know you for something. So first impressions are almost everything. And a lot of us, our first impression are negative, and we have to figure out how to turn that negative into a positive. There are some times that you would go into a forum and your first impression today might not be the same first impression you give tomorrow. Sometimes our feelings get involved. Sometimes we might be having a bad day, it might not be the perfect time. And so we can give off a different energy at different times. And so that first impression can change at different times. But it's very important for us to almost all of the time make sure that we're putting of putting forward a great first impression, because that demonstrates our brand and it falls back on us. It's what people are going to know us for, and it answers the question who you are. So first impression are almost everything. Your reputation precedes you. So you need to have a good reputation. Like for instance, if I am a salesperson, let's say I'm selling insurance or financial services, if my reputation is that I don't keep appointments, I don't follow up with people, or I don't get to my appointments on time, then that's going to be a bad reputation on my part. And people are not going to want to do business with me. And that would be a reputation that would be building unless I decide to change it. And even when you decide to change it, it's hard to change someone's perception of you. It's a lot of work to put in to really change that perception.
Mm-hmm.
How do you want to come across? Self-reflection. Does the impression you give off match your brand? So you can be over here, like I know someone, their brand is all about business and uplifting women and all that kind of stuff. And on the other hand, they're over here doing something way different than what their brand signifies. Then that means your brand or your message is not clearly defined. It is not explicit if over here you're doing something different than what you say you are over here. And sometimes people struggle with that even when we have social media, and we might have a business page and then we have a personal page, and we think, okay, I do my business stuff over here, so you need to focus on my business page only and not on my personal page. But sometimes the two intermingle and the two mix together. And so someone who might want to do business with you might also visit that personal page. So you have to make sure that things are in line, that the message is clear, and that what you don't want people to see, that you're not portraying that out there that can create a negative impact on you. So that is very, very important. Does your brand differ between your professional and personal life? And that's what I've been touching on just now with the social media. What does your social media presence say about you? And just a perfect example is you might have a young lady. She might be um, uh, one of those girls that show up at parties and host parties and stuff like that. And that might be the impression she put out there. That might be the job she could have gotten at the time, and she might want to change that job and transition into something else. But if you've been doing that for a couple of years and that is what people have known you by, it's going to be very difficult for these people to change their minds and their perception of you and look at you over here as a professional working in an office as an administrative assistant. You see, there's a vast, distinct difference there. And so if you're transitioning into that different career opportunity or that different level, then you are going to have to work extra hard to change that perception of yourself that people had of you before. Not saying the perception before was bad, but if you're trying to transition, then you're going to have to work to get people to transition with you and not stay where you were before. Believe in your value. For others to see your value and gravitate to it, you must first believe in that value and express it. And so many times we say, okay, I know I can do this, I know I can do that. If you know it, you have to show it on the outside. You have to show people that you know it. Because people are not going to recognize your value or what you have to add to them if you don't show it. Show them who you are. Tell yourself you are great, and affirmations is very important. Oftentimes we have bad days. Oftentimes we get down on ourselves, and we don't always feel great all the time. So sometimes we need to remind ourselves and keep telling ourselves that we are great. Work on your strong points. Everyone has strong points. You just have to recognize them and you just have to work on them. My strong point might be to speak. That might not be your strong point. Your strong point might be to build relationships, and you might have a friendly demeanor to do that. Work on your strong points and make sure that you have it at optimal level to be able to do that. Be confident. Confidence sells. And do not mistake confidence with cockiness, because some people are just cocky and they like to talk about themselves and show up and all this kind of thing. If you're confident in yourself and in your knowledge and in your worth, you don't have to talk about it. People are going to see it automatically. It is going to radiate off of you. It's going to exude out of you. It's people are going to see it when you speak. People are going to see it when you show up in a room. People are going to just see that you have that confidence. So you don't necessarily have to talk about, oh, I have 4 degrees and I went to Columbia University, or I went to Harvard, or I have an A in this or A in that, and I am intelligent. You better don't mess with me. I am intelligent. I have an MBA. You don't have to say things like that for to show your confidence, because when you open your mouth and speak, people would hear and see that confidence. The way you dress, the way you carry yourself, the way you articulate, the way your presence, the way you show up, people are going to see that confidence within you. And it all comes back to believing in yourself and believing in your value. Are you active, dormant, or somewhat active? And this is talking about networking now. So we're networkers, and sometimes we can, if you're active, that's great. But are you dormant? And I see like the volcano here, the picture of a volcano, because a volcano can be dormant, but it is still somewhat active in that something can happen and wake it up out of its sleep. Because when you're dormant, it's almost as if you're sleeping. You're just there for being there, right? And it takes an earthquake, or it takes some kind of energy or some kind of force to wake you up out of that dormant state and for you to get into that active state. So what is going to, if you're dormant in your networking, what is going to wake you up? What is it going to take to awake you from that dormant sleep and to push you into being an active networker? You might be somewhat active. Why are you somewhat active? Why are you just not active and you're somewhat active instead? Are situations holding you back from being an active networker? Or are you procrastinating? What is happening that you're somewhat active? Are you not comfortable with the level of value or the level of portrayal of your worth that you're putting out there? That's why you're somewhat active. Or are you just lazy and, okay, once in a while I'm going to talk to somebody? I guess I can go on LinkedIn today and just do a post or maybe do a like, and then I'll probably revisit it in a month or two. Why are you doing that? And it all comes back to, what is your purpose? What is your goal for networking? Because if you have a goal and you have a timeline, you're not going to be somewhat active. You're going to be actively networking and building those relationships. So this is a self-reflection for you to figure out, am I active? And when you're active, you're networking on a weekly basis. You're networking at least once, two times a week in the week. You're posting, you're creating content, you're following up on your connections, you're emailing, you're doing all of that stuff because you have a goal and you have something that you want to achieve. And in order for you to do that, you need to be active. So we need to self-reflect and see which one of these categories that we fit in. And if we're in the dormant and we need some sort of force to shake us out of that dormant state, then we need to find that force and get us out of that state. If we're somewhat active and we need to get out of that somewhat active into active, then we need to get that done. In networking, I am the observer. And the observer is someone who you might stand in the background, you scan the room, you grab a drink instead of jumping into the conversation. You try to rehearse your opening statement. You are so terrified you start sweating even though the room is not hot. You feel the urge to leave. And if you can see in the picture here that the guy is clearly, he is like in a world by himself, right? And I remember I was once the observer, because when I was just getting into networking, I remember going to a networking event and I did not know anyone there except for the girl that I went to the event with. And she was always going to these networking events, so she was somewhat of an active networker, and she was a master networker that we would talk about later on in this presentation. And so we get into the event, and we grab a drink at the bar, and then she went off by herself and she started networking. She starts talking to people and all that stuff. And then I'm there and I'm like, I can't believe she brought me here and she just left me and gone about her business. And I'm like, I in my mind, I'm cursing with myself, and I'm like, I know no one here. I literally know no one here. And then I'm seeing the name tags. Say, for instance, my name is Sandra Brown, and I am the executive director of blah, blah, blah. And my name is Molly Hensworth, and I am the CEO of this. And there's another one. My name is blah, 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 and I am the manager of such and such. And I'm looking at my name tag, and my name tag says, I am Molly Crease. I work at such and such. Because I was literally afraid to put my job title on there, because first of all, the company I worked with was a small company, not established, and we did not necessarily have titles. I was doing all the accounting stuff and different kind of stuff, but a title was not established when I was hired. So I was like, I am not even sure what title am I. So how am I going to put the title on the card to say I am this, I am that? And then I am there and I'm like, should I go talk to someone? I mean, and then I find in my brain, I am walking to go and talk to someone, but my brain is not translating the action to my legs, because I look at my legs and I am in the same position and I am not moving. And I am like, after all of that, I went outside and I'm like, I need some air. I can't do this. I cannot do this. After a while, I think my friend couldn't find me, and she was looking around, and she came outside and she was like, Molly, what's going on? Why are you not networking? Come in, come talk to some people. I'm like, you left me alone. You know, I don't do this very often. You should have really give me some pointers, give me some tips, and walk me into the conversation with you instead of leaving me by myself. And so what happened is that I mustered up the strength, mustered up the energy to go back into the room with her. And then she was talking to a group of people, and that is how I got infused into the conversation, and people asking me, what's your name? Where do you work? And all this stuff. And those are the questions I hate in networking. Where do you work? What do you do? It's almost like you have to list out your whole resume, and you have to list out your whole job responsibilities and duties of what you do. And you want to seem as important as they are, because they're rattling off stuff. I do this, I do this, I do this, I do this, and you're there and I'm like, oh my gosh.
I do this.
I'm not that interesting, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, what am I gonna do? And how am I gonna say this? And that goes back to you. That goes back to you as a person not believing in yourself and not believing in your value. Because looking back to that day and what I know now, I was valuable back then, just mean I didn't know it and I didn't recognize it within myself. And so I
Mhm.
could not portray that out to others because
You weren't.
I was not feeling that in myself.
Mhm.
You was gonna say something.
I was gonna say that, you weren't able to sell yourself at that time.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And the thing with networking is it takes practice. You don't just wake up today and say, okay, I'm going to network and you're good at it. And with the observer too, some people are introverts. Some people are naturally introverts. You don't know how to speak, and you might be someone who really likes being alone or stuff like that. And so it can be very hard for you to get out there and do that. But it takes practice, and now that we're virtually connected, it's even easier. If you are an observer, it's even easier because you don't literally have to go up and talk to someone. So you can take this time to practice now at home and also practice online because you don't really necessarily have to talk. You send a message through LinkedIn or you send a message through Facebook and you can network that way. And so
Mhm.
it gives you time to practice and to muster up that confidence and that strength so that when you're able to be back in person with people, that you can definitely be able to network better. And being an observer is not totally a bad thing. You just have to know how to utilize that, and to even though you're a quiet person, be able to show your value to others, because everybody is not going to be flamboyant and bubbly and like, oh my God, hi, how are you today? Everybody don't have that kind of an energy. So it's all about finding your strength, finding your strong points, and really building on that. And for the observer, I would say some tips are to practice networking with friends and family. Very important to practice. Build your confidence. Example, look yourself in the mirror and practice your introduction, practice your conversation pieces. The best person for you to network with is yourself. So if you can practice talking to yourself and networking with yourself, then you will be able to network with someone else. Try doing it try doing it before you go in person, and engage in one-on-one networking. There are some instances where, and as an observer, I would say start out with doing speed networking. It's almost it comes from, I think it comes from speed dating, where you go one on one with someone and they ring the bell. You talk to someone for 5 minutes or whatever. They ring the bell. You switch around and you go and talk to someone different.
Mhm.
That's you being one on one with someone, and you're not feeling the pressure of having to stand out in a group of people. So that might be a better environment for you. And look for situations that make you comfortable and allow you the ability to show up until you get the hang of it. So
Mhm.
that's the observer. In networking, I am the procrastinator. The procrastinator, you take your time before you try to get into it. You walk around and just smile at people in the room. You take a walk to the bar, you see some friends and go talk to them. You avoid as long as you possibly can before diving in. You pick out the person alone in the corner to talk to. So a procrastinator is just what the word says. The procrastinator is someone who is lackadaisical. You could care less about networking really. You're the person that if someone calls you to network, you would say, I got a test to study for. I'll go next week. And your
Mhm.
friend might call you to go to an event, and you might be like, I can't do this now. I'll do it another time. Or even if you show up and you go, you might be the person who might just sit down in a comfortable situation. It might be a group of friends or a group of people that you know, and then you're comfortable sitting there for the remainder of the night and just talking to that one group, which is not very productive if you want to get somewhere. And so as the picture says here, don't wait until tomorrow. So the procrastinator likes to procrastinate and makes a lot of excuses. And some tips for the procrastinator would be to reach out for help if you find this is becoming a pattern and it's something that you would like to break. Reach out for help, and so that someone would hold you accountable to do stuff that you need to do. It might be a mentor or a friend, someone that has that goal and know what you want to achieve and the things that you have to do to get there. Have that person in your life that's going to push you to do those things. Or you might need professional help from a networking guru or someone like myself. Network in smaller groups to overcome anxiety. Sometimes the procrastinator can be a covering or it can be a put off because they're fearful and timid of diving right in. That would be it would might be better to engage in closed networking in smaller groups so that you can practice and engage yourself to get out of it. And also it's a good thing to do affirmations every day. I am going to do this. I am going to network twice a day. I am going to write those networking goals down and those actionable items and make sure that you're working on it to get out of that funk of being a procrastinator. Now let's move on to the pusher. I have encountered a lot of pushers, and your introduction is like diarrhea and it just keep coming up. So have you ever met someone, you're talking to them and they're like, my name is such and such, I do this and I know this and I go here and I know this and they just keep talking and you can't even get a word in. A perfect example is if you get a sales call and they're calling you to sell something and they would be like, hi, are you Molly? You better get in, yes, I'm Molly. And then they'd be like, we're selling this, and it's special offer, and this, and good at this, and you'd be like, I don't have no money, I'm not interested in that, but we can give you a 10% discount, this, and you were this, and then you get angry and you just hang up the phone because you're like, I'm not getting a word in, they're not listening to me, so I'm just gonna hang up the phone. The pusher can be like this. They are so enthusiastic that they overdo it and they did, and you're there like this. Mm-hmm.
What's next? Can you stop?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then you can't wait to get out of there because you're like, I don't want to listen to any more of this. And you can't wait to get out of there. You talk only about you all the time. The pusher tends to just talk about themselves all the time. And and in networking, it's not just about you because networking is not selfish. You dominate the conversation in a group or otherwise. So even if they're talking in a group, they must be the center of attention. They must be the ones that are talking, they're answering the questions, they seem knowledgeable, even though sometimes they're really not, and all this kind of stuff. You look for all the big players and you collect every business card and seek their attention. So I used to do this at one point because I used to think that this is networking. I would go to networking events and I would collect as many business cards as possible. And then before you know it, I have like 100 business cards in my house and I haven't contacted one, not even one. I haven't sent an email. I haven't done anything with it. It's like I'm just collecting business cards. What am I collecting them for? I have no idea. So and a lot of people go to events or they go to conferences and they do this. They see people they admire or people who they think is important and they be like, can I get your business card? and then they get the business card, and then the next day there's no follow-up, the next day there's nothing, they don't send an email, they don't do anything. So why did you collect the business card in the first place? Is it for you to look important to say that I collected a business card? They have to be purposeful networking. You have to have a purpose in why you're collecting my business card. Why are you collecting my business card? If it's not for reaching out and building a relationship, then you don't need to collect business cards, because it might make you seem important in that instance at that event, but at the end of the day, what is the result? What is the results that you're gaining from doing that? So that's the pusher. And with the pusher, I would say tips for the pusher would be to relax, breathe, take your time, right? It's not the world is not coming to an end. So you can take your time and speak and articulate yourself. While it is good to sell yourself, networking is about give and take. So listen and offer support and resources. Concentrate on making the connection and building that relationship. Practice and allow for feedback. And networking is not a sprint, so you don't have to get through it in one network setting. You don't have to get through it in one networking event. You can pace yourself, and you can networking, like I said, networking is not a sprint. Now we're going to the follower. In networking, I am a follower. And the follower is someone you stand and listen and then go from what you hear. You have no message, no strategy of your own. You wait for a group of people to go first and then you join in. So a follower is someone who they are timid, they're shy as well. They can be introverts as well. You don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, and so you follow the person's lead who've taken you to the networking event, which is not necessarily a bad thing, because if that person is a master networker, then following them and what they do is not necessarily a bad thing. Or you really just stay with your friends, or you see someone that you admire and you mimic and you follow them. It's not a problem with that, but that can also read as you not being authentic and you not being yourself, and someone could also see through that. So some things that I think would help someone if they find themselves in the situation of the follower will be to get out of that comfort zone, because usually when you're a follower is because you're afraid of leading. You're afraid of taking that leadership role because you don't want to get rejection, or you don't want to face the possibility of someone saying no to you, or I'm not interested. So you're comfortable with being in the background and just following and just going with the tide. And I would say to that person, get out of that comfort zone. Have friends or co-workers offer introductions on your behalf. So if you don't know how to go into a situation, you can have people that are already networkers, already master networkers, who can help you to introduce you. So for instance, if Marta is a follower and I'm a master networker and we're at a networking event together, I can bring her and I can introduce her and then say, Marta is in technology, she does this, she does that, she is an expert at this, and she's really good, and I think you guys would be a good connection and be able to build together. So you can have someone make those introductions for you. Attend networking events with speakers. So there are some networking events they will give a 10-minute networking time in the beginning, and then they will have a speaker that will talk about a topic. And then after the speaker, they will probably give a 20-minute or a 30-minute networking period. If you attend those kind of events, then it gives you time to really listen to a topic, for people to really look at you, and chances are people would come up to you and say hi to you because they want to network with you. and it's an easier space to control, and it's easier for you to really correspond with someone in that kind of a settings. Step to venture out on your own in non-threatening environment and realize your potential. Get out there and just get out there and do it. It's good going back. That's why we started with who you are, believing in your value and believing in your brand. When you believe in those things, then you will come out of the follower role and step into that leadership role of showcasing your value and say, this is who I am, this is my authentic self, and this is what I have to offer. Now we get to the master networker. The master networker, you know how to be yourself. You are direct and honest. You set realistic expectations. You show up early and have a strategy in place. Your goal is to get to know the person and provide value for free. You have fun, you be memorable and take notes, you follow up, you stay connected, and you watch your network. You audit and you do all of these things. And the master networker must overcome the other types of networking to get to the master networking. Some of us, we go through every stage of that networking. Some days we are the observer. Some days we are the procrastinator because we don't feel like networking and we just don't feel like doing it. Sometimes we're the follower. We just want someone else to take the lead and we don't want to do anything today. But the master networker is someone who always see purpose. They always see strategy. They know that they have a goal in place. They know that they have somewhere to get to, and if they don't do it, they're not gonna reach to that goal. So they have a tunnel vision, they're focused, and they're networking. They accept failures, they work around their failures, they work on it, and they push forward. These are our master networkers. And in all of that, when you find out what kind of a networker you are, then it's time to work on realizing your network ability and improving your network ability. Maybe before you thought you weren't valuable, before you thought you were not good at this, you were not good at that. You find out that you're an observer and you're a follower or something. I would say now, to work on your network ability and realizing your network ability, it would be good. I've done this exercise before, is to get a sheet of paper and on one side you put what you're good at and what you've done and your accomplishments, and on the other side you put what you want to accomplish, where you want to go, what are your vulnerabilities, and see where they stack up. 10 times out of 10, the side that has the successes is going to outweigh the negative side. And if for some reason the negative side outweighs, then it just means that you have some things to work on. It does not mean at all that you're not good enough. So improving your network ability, you find yourself, you believe in yourself, you acknowledge that you are the shit. You are valuable. Document your work, like I said, write it down. I'm not talking about your resume. I'm talking about doing that specifically for you so that you can really build that confidence up within yourself. It's okay to get it wrong a few times. We all don't get it right. Like I said, networking takes practice. So just keep practicing, keep working at it. Develop a strategy, which is very important. The master networkers, the experts, and the industry leaders, and the recruiters, and all these people that you see have been successful. They have always had a strategy. They developed a strategy. You can't tell me that Barack Obama woke up one morning and say, okay, I know I'm going to be the first Black president of the United States. and then he did not work at it. He didn't study the political subjects that he needed to study. He didn't go into the jobs that he needed to go in to be on that trajectory. If he didn't do that, then he would not have become the first Black president of the United States. So there must be a strategy in place. For him to get there, he would have had to go to a certain school. He would have had to network with certain people. He would have to take certain particular subjects. He would have had to pursue certain kind of professional jobs and mingle in that arena in order to be acknowledged or eligible for that kind of a role. So there always have to be a strategy in place. And if you don't have a strategy, then you find yourself all over the place trying to figure out what am I supposed to do? What do I do over here? What do I do over there? And then you find yourself in all these kind of situations. And a perfect example of that is students, right? You go to school, you probably be an undergrad and you're a grad student, and you probably haven't figured out where you want to get in your career yet. And you might be desperate. And so you come out of school with your degree, and the first job that falls in your lap, you take it. Because I need money, I have student loans, I need to pay these student loans. And so I got to take the job. And so that's exactly what I did. That's exactly what happened to me. I had these student loans to pay. And so when I got out of school, I wasn't getting the job that I wanted. I wasn't getting the job that I studied for. And so I settled for a different job. The problem with that is that when you get into that, it's difficult for you to get out of that, because then you develop a level of comfort and a level of contentment, and then you forget about where you wanted to go before you thought about paying the bills and paying the student loans. And then when it's time for you to get back on track, it's hard for you to get back on that track of that strategy or that purpose or that goal that you wanted to get to. So make sure develop that strategy and follow those action items, follow those action plans to get you to that goal that you need to get to, that you've set out for yourself. And even though you might stray from the path, come back to it and make sure that you're on that path to get into that goal. Stack the deck with valuable players. Like I said, even in my example with Barack Obama, you have to network. You have to associate yourself with people that is going to be valuable to your growth, valuable to your achievements, and valuable to where you want to go. So stack the deck with valuable players, get your MVPs together, and make sure they are in your network. And we talked about this earlier, the self-smart analysis. Make sure you do that. You put down your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. Because when you put this on paper, then you see, okay, this is my value, this is what I'm worth. This might be a weakness, but I can work on that and make it into a strength. This might be a threat, but I can work on it and turn it into an opportunity. So when you lay them out on paper and you look at them, then you'll be able to work on what you need to work on and put forward that energy in those strengths and in those opportunities and make full use of them. So it's very important to do a self-SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is not just for business plans. You put it out there and do it to plan your professional life. You can do it to plan your personal life. But I believe in the self-SWOT analysis, and I think it's very important to do. Steps to becoming a master networker. Be authentic, show up valuable, build, manage, and maintain your relationships. This is very important. If you connect with someone, then you have to manage that and you have to build that. Schedule in-person or virtual meetups. Ditch the sales pitch and focus on providing support and resources. People don't want to hear you talk about yourself all the time. Follow up and follow through. When you make a connection, it's not just about collecting the business card, it's about following up with that person, and it's also about following through. And follow through comes with the maintenance and the management of your network. Ask questions. We don't know everything, we don't know everything. And you always can find knowledge in any place you go. So ask questions and gain that knowledge. It's only going to make you better. Engage in informational interviews, join groups, attend webinars, which is all important. Engage in open networking, because when you engage in open networking, then you can get network from connections, relationships from any side of this spectrum. It's not only people in your industry. You can network with someone that's not in your industry, but they can put you on to something that's actually in your industry. That's called indirect networking. So engage in open networking. Do a networking audit. Make sure that you are staying in contact with people that you need to stay in contact with. If some have fallen by the wayside, then you need to pick them up and start networking with them again. Or if you need to leave some behind, you need to do that. But you need to constantly do an audit of your network. And I will say do an audit maybe every 3 months or something like that, to make sure that you have those core amount of people that you need to have in your network. And it's not about quantity, it's about quality. It doesn't matter if you have 5,000, 10,000 connections, whether it be on your LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. If these people are not adding value to you and you're not adding value back to them, then they're just there as dormant people in your network, and you do not want that. Set goals and realistic expectations for yourself. And we go back to the SMART goals that we were talking about. Be unique and unforgettable. You don't want to be the same as everybody else, because you're not going to be memorable. People remember the people who show up and who are unique and authentic in themselves. Be a connector of people. So a master networker is also a connector. They connect people with people. They connect people with resources, and they help people. So be a connector of people. And most of all, as our tagline love to say, we take the work out of networking. Most of all, have fun, because a lot of people think networking is such a drag. It's just about talking and all this kind of stuff, and it's so much work. But you can have fun while networking. So I would say most of all, have fun with it. Your network strategy: analyze, define, execute. So analyze where you are and work on it and build on it. Define what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, where you want to go, what your goals are, what your purpose is, and then execute it. Work on those things, work on those action items, and make sure that they come to fruition, whether it be in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. Work towards that goals by executing those plans that you set out for yourself. And be the driving force and be in control of your destiny. Oh, and that's the end of the presentation. Ooh, we made it to the end. Okay, let's go back to that. Let's go back to the quiz. So you've taken the quiz.
Oh, let me open it. Hold on. I didn't want to take it on the call. So, okay. You want me to write it down or just answer them to you?
No, I am going to tell you. So you have the quiz with you.
Mm-hmm.
And if your answer is mostly A's, then you are the observer. If your answer is mostly B's, you are the procrastinator. If your answer is mostly C's, you are the pusher. If your answers are mostly D's, you are the master networker. And if your answers are mostly E's, you are the follower. So which one of those that you have on your answer sheet?
So for hold on. Trina. What can I do that? Okay, so I have a pen here.